Keanu Reeves had always liked simple nights, the kind of nights when he could just walk down the street with his hands in his pockets, feel the cool breeze on his face, and let the city noise fade into the background. It had been many years since he had left the Navy SEALs. People in Hollywood only knew him as an actor, a quiet man who minded his own business. But no one knew about the nights he spent alone with memories that still haunted him. He had scars on his body and deeper ones on his mind, but he carried them with grace, never letting them weigh him down. One evening, Keanu walked out of a small diner he had eaten alone, paying for his meal with a smile and leaving a big tip for the tired waitress outside. The street was darker than usual. A few streetlights flickered. He didn't mind. He liked shadows. They reminded him he was still alive. But this time, the shadows hid more than silence. At the end of the block, a group of young men leaned against a brick wall. They looked restless, laughing aloud at something on a phone screen. They noticed Keanu walking their way. To them, he looked like any other aging man in a simple black coat. Nothing more than an easy mark. The leader of the group, a tall guy with tattoos crawling up his neck, elbowed his friend. "Hey, check out this old dude. Think he's got cash?" His voice dripped with mockery. They stepped onto the sidewalk, blocking Keanu's path. Keanu stopped. He looked each one in the eye, his face calm but unreadable. He could see their cheap bravado, the hunger for trouble in their eyes. Part of him wanted to just step aside and keep walking, but he knew from experience that people like this didn't stop when you gave them an inch. They wanted to take everything. The tallest thug spoke first. "Where you headed, old man? Got any spare change for us?" Keanu looked at the young man's shaking hands. Nervous energy, not real strength. He spoke softly. "Why don't you boys go home? There's nothing here for you." His gentle tone made them laugh harder. They thought he was weak, harmless. One of them, a boy with a baseball cap turned backwards, spat at the ground near Keanu's boots. "Who do you think you're talking to, huh? You think you can tell us what to do?" Keanu felt a familiar tingle run up his spine. It was the same feeling he got years ago, when he had to lead his team through enemy territory at night, not knowing if they'd make it out alive. His heartbeat slowed instead of speeding up. He knew what came next. He didn't want it, but he was ready for it. The leader stepped closer, so close Keanu could smell the cheap alcohol on his breath. "I said, hand over your wallet. Now." Keanu sighed. The street was quiet now. A stray dog barked in the distance. He spoke again, almost kindly. "Go home, kid. I don't want to hurt you." That did it. The leader's pride couldn't handle the warning. With a snarl, he shoved Keanu hard in the chest. Keanu stepped back, his feet planting firmly on the concrete. He didn't lose balance. Instead, he looked up, eyes steady, breathing calm. The second thug lunged forward, swinging his fist wide. Keanu moved like water, sidestepping the punch with such ease that the thug nearly fell forward. It took less than a second for Keanu to grab the kid's arm and twist it behind his back. A small yelp of pain escaped the boy's lips. "Please don't," the boy whispered. Keanu let him go with a gentle push. He didn't want to break bones. He just wanted them to understand they were messing with the wrong man. But the leader didn't care. He pulled a small pocket knife from his jeans. The blade looked dull, but in the wrong hands, it was dangerous. Keanu felt the past crash into the present. He saw the jungle missions, the hostage rescues, the split-second decisions that decided who lived and who didn't, the training that never left him. The thug lunged. For Keanu, time slowed. He stepped forward instead of back, catching the leader's wrist and pivoting, using the boy's momentum against him. The knife clattered to the ground. Keanu held him in a lock, whispering into his ear, "This is your last chance." The other two boys froze. Their eyes widened as they realized they were no match for this quiet man with kind eyes, who moved like a ghost. The leader's breath came in sharp gasps. Keanu let him go, and the boy stumbled back, rubbing his arm, staring in disbelief. "What are you, man?" the youngest one asked, his voice cracking. Keanu bent down and picked up the knife. He folded it and handed it back to the leader. "Someone who knows what it's like to fight. Someone who knows it's better not to." The boys backed away, mumbling apologies. They ran into the night, their laughter gone. Keanu watched them go, a heavy sadness filling his chest. He never wanted to be feared. He just wanted to be left alone. As he walked away, the street felt quiet again. The night wrapped around him like an old blanket. The city didn't know that. The man who just disappeared into the shadows was once a Navy SEAL, a protector, a fighter who had seen the worst and still chose to be gentle whenever he could. But sometimes, the world didn't give him a choice. The next morning, Keanu woke up before sunrise. Sleep never stayed long with him. The city was just beginning to breathe, its streets washed in the pale glow of dawn. Keanu poured himself a cup of coffee and sat by the window. In his small apartment, his mind replayed the encounter from the night before, but not with anger. It was more like a quiet ache. He had hoped those boys would learn, go home, and grow up better than the streets that raised them. As he sipped his coffee, he remembered something his old Navy SEAL instructor used to say: never underestimate the boy with nothing to lose. The words echoed inside him, a warning he could not ignore. Deep down, he felt the trouble wasn't over yet. He put on his worn boots and grabbed his leather jacket. He needed air. Outside, the city moved slow. Store owners rolled up metal shutters. An old woman swept the sidewalk in front of her bakery. Keanu gave her a nod, and she smiled back, unaware of the battles he carried under his calm smile. He walked to the park nearby, a small green space squeezed between busy streets. This was where he found peace. He sat on a bench under an old oak tree, letting the sound of birds soften the edges of his thoughts. But today, the calm didn't stay long. A young boy, maybe 16, approached him. His clothes were torn, eyes darting around like a stray dog. Keanu noticed him from the corner of his eye but didn't move. The boy cleared his throat. "Hey, man, you got a minute?" Keanu turned, his eyes soft but alert. "Sure, what's up?" The boy looked down at his shoes. "You messed with Marco last night." "He's my brother." Keanu stayed silent, waiting. He's looking for you. He says you embarrassed him in front of his crew. Says he wants payback." Keanu felt a dull weight in his chest. He never wanted a fight, but he knew pride made people do foolish things. "What's your name?" he asked. "Josh," the boy said, his voice trembling. "I don't want any trouble, man. I don't want Marco to get hurt. He's stupid sometimes, but he's my brother." Keanu nodded slowly. He could see the fear and love mixed in the boy's eyes. It reminded him of his old teammates who would have died for each other. Loyalty was a blade that cut both ways. "Josh," Keanu said gently, "tell Marco I don't want this. I just want him to be safe. I won't fight him. There's nothing for me to prove." Josh fidgeted with the strings on his hoodie. "He won't listen. He's getting his boys together. They're planning something," he said. "He said you won't walk away next time." Keanu sighed. He looked at the boy, realizing he was caught between family and fear. He reached into his pocket and handed Josh a small folded bill. "Get yourself some breakfast, kid, and stay away from Marco tonight." Josh took the money, his hands shaking. "Are you gonna hurt him?" "No," Keanu said. "But if he comes at me, I won't let him hurt me either." The boy nodded, his eyes wide. "You're not like other guys." Keanu smiled faintly. "No, I'm not." Josh ran off, disappearing into the morning crowd. Keanu sat back, staring at the sun climbing over the rooftops. He wished he could erase the violence from his past, but he knew better. Sometimes, the past found you even when you did everything to leave it behind. That evening, Keanu decided to pay a visit to someone who owed him a favor. He went to the edge of town, to a garage hidden behind a chain-link fence. Inside, old cars waited for a second chance, much like the man who worked on them. Mike was a big man with hands rough from years of grease and engines. He looked up when Keanu entered, wiping his hands on a rag. "Long time, brother, too long," Keanu said, shaking Mike's hand firmly. Mike tilted his head, studying Keanu's face. "You got that look again." "What look?" "The trouble's coming, but I'm trying to stop it. Look." Keanu laughed softly. "Maybe." Mike leaned against the hood of an old Mustang. "Talk to me." Keanu told him everything. The thugs, the fight, The boy named Josh. Mike listened without interrupting. When Keanu finished, Mike let out a long whistle. You always had a way of attracting the wrong kind of people. I don't want a war, Mike. I know, Mike said, his eyes narrowing. But kids like that, they don't understand. They think respect comes from fists and blood. Keanu rubbed the back of his neck. I need to know where Marco is before this gets worse. Mike nodded. I might know someone who knows. Give me a day. Keanu clasped Mike's shoulder. Thanks, brother. As he left the garage, Keanu felt the weight of the night ahead pressing down on him. He didn't fear violence. He feared what violence did to good people. He feared what it would awaken inside him. He had buried that side for years. He prayed he wouldn't have to dig it up again. Walking back through the city streets, he felt eyes on him. Shadows moved in alleyways. Maybe it was just his mind playing tricks, or maybe trouble was closer than he thought. Either way, Keanu knew one thing. He would protect the innocent, even if it meant facing the darkness he had fought so hard to escape. That night, rain fell over the city in thin, cold sheets. The streets glistened under the streetlights. Neon signs reflected on wet pavement like broken dreams. Keanu walked slowly through the alleys, his hood pulled up, his eyes scanning every shadow. He knew that when people got desperate for respect, they did reckless things. He thought about Josh. The kid's eyes haunted him more than the leader's threats. He wondered if the boy was safe tonight, or if he was somewhere watching his brother gather his anger like a loaded gun. Keanu wished he could find the right words to make it all stop, but he knew words wouldn't be enough. Not with boys who thought violence made them men. As he turned a corner near an old warehouse, he heard footsteps behind him, not the soft steps of a passerby. These were heavy, determined. Keanu stopped under a flickering light and waited. The footsteps slowed, then stopped too. A voice called out, low and mocking. Double quotes. Well, if it ain't the old man himself. Keanu turned around. Marco stood there, flanked by 3 others. They looked younger than he remembered, kids wearing anger like cheap armor. Marco had a bruise on his jaw from their last meeting, and the rage in his eyes burned bright. Didn't think you'd be dumb enough to walk around here alone, Marco said, stepping closer. The others spread out, trying to circle Keanu. He could see they were holding makeshift weapons. A metal pipe, a broken bottle, a chain, cheap and sloppy, but enough to do damage. Keanu didn't move. Rain dripped from the brim of his hood. As he looked at Marco with tired eyes, Go home, Marco. This doesn't end well for you. Marco barked a laugh. You think you're some kind of hero. You embarrassed me in front of my crew. You think they respect me now. I have to fix that. Keanu could feel the tension in the air, thick and restless. He took a slow step forward, lowering his hood so they could see his eyes. Respect doesn't come from fear, Marco. It comes from knowing when to walk away. Marco sneered. Save your old man lessons. I'm not walking away. The boy with the chain swung first. Keanu ducked, stepping into him instead of away, grabbing the boy's arm and twisting. The chain clattered to the ground as the boy crumpled with a sharp cry. The others hesitated, but Marco screamed, Get him. The fight that followed was fast and brutal. It wasn't like the movies. There were no fancy kicks, no wasted moves. Keanu moved with the precision of a man who had done this in jungles and deserts. In places where there was no backup and one mistake meant death. He dodged the pipe swing, elbowed the boy in the gut, sending him to the ground gasping for air. The one with the bottle rushed in, but Keanu grabbed his wrist, twisted it hard, and the bottle smashed harmlessly to the side. The boy's eyes filled with panic as he stumbled back. Marco watched, stunned, his breathing ragged. In that moment, he saw Keanu for what he truly was, not an old man, but a storm wrapped in calm. Keanu stepped toward him, his boots splashing in the puddles. This is over, Marco. Go home. Marco pulled a switchblade from his pocket, flicking it open with trembling hands. I'm not afraid of you, he hissed. Keanu single quotes as heart ached. He didn't want to hurt this boy, but he saw the desperation in Marco's eyes. A kid trying to prove he was someone, trying to be feared so he wouldn't be forgotten. Don't do this, Keanu said softly, but Marco lunged. Keanu sidestepped, grabbed Marco's wrist mid-swing, twisted the blade away, and in one smooth motion, disarmed him and pushed him to his knees. Marco's breathing turned to sobs, the cold rain mixing with tears he could no longer hide. Keanu knelt down, holding Marco's shoulders so he wouldn't slip. Look at you. You don't have to be this, Marco. You don't have to carry this anger. You have a brother who loves you. Don't throw that away. Marco looked up, eyes red, his pride cracking like thin ice. He spat out the words like poison. What do you know about it? You're just an actor. You don't know what it's like to be nothing. Keanu's eyes darkened with old memories. I know what it's like to have nothing. I've seen men die for nothing. I've held brothers in my arms while they bled out, begging for home. I've been hungry, lost, alone. You think I don't know? The thugs behind Marco stared, the fight gone from their eyes. They saw him now, not the movie star, but the man who had survived things they could never imagine. Marco's shoulders slumped. The blade lay forgotten in the puddle. What do I do now? He whispered. Keanu stood, pulling Marco up with him. You go home. You make it right with your brother. You get out of this before it kills you. Marco nodded, too tired to argue. He gestured to his boys, and one by one, they slipped into the shadows, leaving behind only the sound of rain hitting concrete. Keanu stood alone again, the night heavy on his shoulders. He felt no victory, only sadness. He knew this was not the end. The streets were always hungry for another lost soul. But tonight, he had given one boy a chance to choose a different path, and that, for now, was enough. The rain had washed the streets clean, but Keanu knew it hadn't washed the city's troubles away. He walked home that night with wet clothes clinging to him, every step echoing memories he thought he had buried forever. Back in his apartment, he changed into dry clothes and sat by the window. His hands, the same hands that once held rifles and pulled drowning teammates from rivers, now held a cup of tea that had gone cold. He wondered if Marco would really go home. Would he make things right with Josh? Or would pride drag him back into the dark corners of the streets? Keanu wanted to believe people could change, because if they couldn't, then all his years trying to protect what was good would mean nothing. The next day, Keanu went back to the garage to see Mike. The big man was under a rusty old truck, legs sticking out. When he heard Keanu's boots, he rolled out with a grin. Still alive. Huh, Keanu chuckled. Barely. Mike sat up, wiping grease from his forehead. Heard some kids got a lesson in respect last night. Keanu looked at the tools scattered around. Don't know if it'll stick. Mike's eyes softened. It will, maybe not all of them. But that Marco kid, he's got a brother who cares. Sometimes that's enough. Keanu leaned against a workbench. I saw something in Marco's eyes. Mike, same thing I saw in mine years ago. Anger, fear. That feeling you gotta fight or get swallowed up. Mike nodded, remembering their shared past. You think he'll come after you again? I don't know, Keanu said. But it's not him I'm worried about. Mike raised an eyebrow. Meaning? Keanu's gaze drifted to the window. Outside, the sun broke through gray clouds. Someone's been watching me, Mike, not the kids. Someone else. Mike frowned. You sure? Keanu tapped the side of his head. Sixth sense, it's back. Mike got up, his big frame blocking the light. You want backup? I still got friends who owe me. Keanu shook his head. Not yet. Maybe it's nothing. But, in his gut, he knew it wasn't nothing. There was a feeling that crawled up his spine whenever he was hunted, an itch that never lied. He had felt it overseas in the jungle when enemy eyes tracked him through the trees. He felt it now, in the heart of a city that pretended to be safe. That evening, Keanu decided to check on Josh. He found the boy sitting on a stoop outside a rundown building, fiddling with a cracked phone. When Josh saw him, he stood up quickly, eyes wide. You okay? Keanu smiled gently. Shouldn't I be asking you that? Josh shrugged. Marco came home. He didn't say much. Just sat in the kitchen for hours. I think you scared him. I didn't want to scare him, Keanu said, sitting beside the boy. I wanted him to remember who he was before the streets got to him. Josh looked at him, hope flickering in his eyes. You think he can change? Keanu's voice was quiet. Only he can answer that. They sat there in silence. A mother across the street called her kids inside for dinner. A car backfired in the distance. The city breathed around them, uncaring. "Who are you, really?" Josh asked suddenly. "Marco says you're more than just some actor." Keanu sighed. He looked at his hands, at the scars that never fully healed. "I was a soldier once, did things I'm proud of, did things I'm not. Now I just try to be kind." Josh's brow furrowed. "Can you teach me, not the fighting stuff, how to be better?" Keanu's eyes softened. "You're already better, Josh. You're still here, trying. That's all any of us can do." A faint smile broke across the boy's face. It reminded Keanu of the young men he used to lead. Good souls pulled into bad places, but still searching for light. As Keanu walked back through the streets, he felt that itch again, eyes following him from rooftops, corners, alleys. When he turned, the shadows were empty, but the feeling stayed. That night, as he lay in bed, a noise woke him, soft, careful, a window latch sliding open. Keanu's eyes snapped open, his breathing steady. He reached under the bed for the old Navy SEAL combat knife he kept wrapped in cloth. He hadn't touched it in years. A shadow moved in the hallway, a creak of floorboards. Keanu slipped out of bed, barefoot, moving like a ghost. The intruder didn't know they had stepped into the home of a man who had once crawled through enemy camps under moonless skies. He heard the faint click of a gun. The intruder wasn't Marco. This was someone else, someone older, colder. Keanu pressed his back against the wall, listening to the footsteps draw closer. His mind split the world into moments, heartbeat, breath, silence. He waited until the shadow passed the door, then moved. The struggle was quick. A muffled grunt, the soft thud of a body hitting the floor. Keanu pinned the man down, the combat knife at his throat. In the faint light, he saw the man's eyes, hard, merciless. "Who sent you?" Keanu whispered. The man spat blood, smirking. "Old ghosts, Reeves. You thought you could run from them." Keanu's eyes darkened. The past had come knocking, and it wasn't done yet. Keanu kept the knife pressed to the intruder's throat. Rain tapped gently against the window as if the city itself was holding its breath. The man pinned under him didn't look like the street thugs. His eyes were sharp, his jaw set like a man used to pain. Keanu knew that look. He had worn it once to talk. Keanu growled, his voice calm but cold. The man chuckled, a dry, bitter sound. "Some people don't forget, Reeves. They remember everything." Keanu pressed the blade closer, feeling the man's pulse jump under the steel. "Who sent you?" The man's lip curled. "You think the past stays buried just because you want it to? There's a price for what you did." Keanu's mind flashed to missions he never talked about, files that were stamped with classified. Villages, rescues, betrayals. He had made enemies. He knew that. But he had always believed he left those shadows behind when he traded his uniform for a quiet life. The man hissed, "You think playing Hollywood star makes you clean? They're coming. They want you to pay." Double quotes. Keanu's single quotes' breath was steady. But inside, something cracked. He didn't fear for himself. He feared for the boy Josh, for Marco, for the innocent people who could get caught in the crossfire. Before Keanu could ask more, the man slammed his forehead up, catching Keanu off guard. They wrestled on the floor, the knife skittering away under the bed. Fists landed in the dark. Sharp grunts, breathless gasps. Keanu fought with the precision of an old soldier, each move calculated. The intruder fought like a cornered animal, desperate and wild. Keanu pinned him again, this time using his forearm to crush the man's windpipe just enough. "Tell me who now." The man coughed, spitting blood. "The man you left behind. The one who didn't get a medal. He's alive, and he wants your head." Keanu's eyes narrowed. He remembered the mission, a village extraction gone bad. They were supposed to pull out a local contact, but they were ambushed. Keanu's team barely made it out alive. He thought the contact had died. Now he knew that ghost had grown teeth. The man went limp under him, unconscious from the chokehold. Keanu tied him up with an old rope he kept from his climbing days. He dragged the man into the tiny bathroom, locking the door from the outside. He sat on the floor, back against the wall, running his hand through his hair. The quiet life he had built was cracking like thin glass. He could handle enemies, but He knew enemies didn't just come for him. They hurt the people he cared about to send messages. At dawn, Keanu made his way to the garage again. Mike was already there, pouring coffee into a tin mug. When he saw Keanu's face, he knew something had changed. "Bad night?" Mike asked. Keanu leaned against the car lift. "Eyes haunted. Worse than that. Old ghosts. They're coming." Mike didn't flinch. "You want me to put the word out? Get you out of town?" Keanu shook his head. "No. Running just makes it worse. They'll find me again. They always do." Mike sipped his coffee. "Then what?" "I need to make sure they don't touch the kids. Josh, Marco, I need you to watch them. Keep them safe." Mike set the mug down. "What about you?" Keanu looked out the grimy window. The city looked peaceful from here, but he knew better. "I need to end this before it starts." That night, Keanu sat in his apartment. A map spread out on his kitchen table. Old habits returned like ghosts, routes, vantage points, safe exits. He thought about Josh, the way the boy asked him to teach him how to be better. It burned in his chest like a promise he couldn't break. In the middle of the night, a soft knock at the door startled him. He grabbed the combat knife, his muscles tight. But when he opened the door, it was Josh. The boy's eyes were wide with fear. "I saw him," Josh whispered. "A man watching me from across the street. I think they're looking for you." Keanu pulled the boy inside, closing the door firmly. He knelt so his eyes met Josh's. "Listen to me. I need you to stay at Mike's for a few days. You'll be safe there." "What about Marco?" Josh asked, his voice cracking. "I'll find him, I promise." Josh grabbed his hand, small and trembling. "Don't let them hurt you." Keanu felt a lump in his throat. "I won't." After Josh left with Mike, Keanu sat alone in the dark, memories flooding him. He could hear the jungle sounds, the gunfire, the last screams of men he couldn't save. He wondered if his soul was just a map of old scars. But one thing was clear. He wouldn't run. He picked up the phone and called an old contact, a voice from his Navy SEAL days. "You owe me," Keanu said quietly. The voice on the line paused, then answered. "Where and when?" Keanu's eyes narrowed. "Here, now." He hung up, staring at the rain outside. Tomorrow, the hunters would come, and they'd find out what it meant to chase a ghost who refused to die. The rain came down harder that night, as if the city itself was warning everyone to stay inside. But Keanu Reeves sat by the window of his apartment, lights off, his eyes locked on the empty street below. The old combat knife lay on the table beside him. In his other hand, he held an old photograph, a faded picture of his Navy SEAL team, smiling in a place none of them really wanted to be. So many of those faces were gone now, ghosts who visited him in dreams, sometimes in the shadows of his waking life. A soft knock broke his thoughts. 3 short taps, then 2 long ones, the signal he knew. He opened the door, and there stood Gabe, a man with salt and pepper hair and the build of someone who never stopped training. Gabe had been there on that same mission, the one that turned their team into legends and left one man behind. "Still like your coffee black?" Gabe asked, stepping in. "No coffee tonight," Keanu said, shutting the door behind him. "It's happening. He's coming." Gabe looked around the small apartment, the maps pinned to the wall, the empty cup of cold tea. "How many?" "At least 6, Keanu said. "Mercenaries, well-trained, maybe more." Gabe pulled up a chair, sat backwards on it. "You sure? You want to do this alone?" Keanu looked at his old friend, eyes tired but steady. "Not alone." "You're here," Gabe smirked. "Damn right." They went over the plan, their voices low but sure. They talked about the best exits, the traps, the fallback points. It felt like old times, but heavier somehow, because this time, it was personal. No uniforms, no medals. Just 2 old soldiers protecting a life that deserved peace. Hours passed. Midnight turned to 2 a.m. Then they heard it, the soft hum of engines cutting through the rain. Headlights off, tires rolling slow. Keanu's pulse didn't spike. Instead, it slowed, like it always did before the storm. Gabe peeked through the blinds. "They're here." Keanu slipped on his black jacket. He tied his hair back, the ritual calming him like a prayer. "Remember the fall back." Gabe tapped his chest. Always. When the first mercenary tried the front door, he found it unlocked. He stepped inside, gun drawn. But he didn't see Keanu move from the shadows, didn't feel the grip until it was too late. A quick twist, a silent takedown. The man crumpled with barely a sound. More came in through the hallway. Gabe handled them like he was back in the jungle, fists, elbows. The sharp crack of bone against bone. They fought like two old wolves, not flashy, just deadly. But then came the voice that made Keanu's chest tighten. Enough games, Reeves. Keanu turned. There he was, Malik, the ghost, older now, a jagged scar down his cheek, eyes that had lost every spark of mercy. Malik had been the contact they left behind all those years ago. Rumor was he had been tortured, left for dead. Somehow he survived, built an empire of mercenaries who dealt in revenge. Malik stepped forward, clapping slowly. Never thought I'd find you playing hero to street kids. Thought you were smarter. Keanu's jaw clenched. I tried to find you back then. We searched for days. Malik laughed, the sound harsh. And then you went home. Medals, movies, and I rotted. Gabe moved to stand beside Keanu. He's not alone, Malik. Malik's smile faded. Doesn't matter. The mercenaries regrouped, forming a circle in the small living room. Keanu felt the walls closing in, but his mind stayed sharp. He glanced at Gabe. A single nod passed between them. Then everything happened at once. Gabe lunged left, tackling one man through the coffee table. Keanu rolled right, grabbing the combat knife from the table and deflecting a strike. Fists, boots. Muffled shouts filled the room. The fight was brutal. Messy, real. Keanu caught Malik's eyes across the chaos. They moved toward each other, to storms colliding. Malik swung a blade, catching Keanu's shoulder. Pain flared, but Keanu didn't flinch. He grabbed Malik's wrist, turned his weight, slammed him against the wall. You want revenge? Keanu growled through clenched teeth. This is it. Malik fought back like a rabid dog, every strike. Full of hate, they crashed into furniture, glass shattered, old photos scattered across the floor. Keanu's mind flashed to Josh, to Marco, to the people who still needed him to stand. With a final surge, Keanu pinned Malik, the combat knife, at his throat. Malik spat blood, eyes wild. Do it. Finish it. Keanu's chest heaved. But instead of killing Malik, he leaned close, his voice a whisper. That's what makes me different. I don't bury people alive. Malik sneered. Weak. Keanu pressed the blade harder. No. Strong. He knocked Malik out cold, the fight gone from him. The remaining mercenaries fled, dragging their wounded with them into the rain. Gabe stood over one, breathing hard, but grinning through a split lip. Still got it, Gabe panted. Keanu slumped against the wall, blood seeping through his shirt, but his eyes clear. It's over. Gabe helped him up. For now, they watched dawn break through the storm clouds. The first light fell on the broken room. The signs of violence that would fade but never fully disappear. Keanu knew this wouldn't be the last ghost, but he also knew he wouldn't run. A few days later, Keanu stood outside Marco and Josh's building. Marco stepped out, eyes cautious but thankful. Josh ran up, hugging Keanu tight. They said you're leaving town, Josh said, his voice muffled in Keanu's coat. Keanu smiled, ruffling the boy's hair. Just for a bit. I need to rest. Marco looked down, then back at Keanu. You saved us, even when you didn't have to. Keanu's eyes softened. Look out for your brother. Be better than all this. Marco nodded, a spark of hope flickering. Where anger once lived. As Keanu walked away, he felt the weight of every memory, every scar, every battle. But for the first time in a long while, he didn't feel alone. He felt like maybe, just maybe, there was still enough good in him to keep the darkness away. Sometimes the world mocked him, seeing only the quiet man with kind eyes. They never knew he was a retired Navy SEAL. They never knew he carried storms in his bones. And that was his greatest strength.